Hello everyone, I'm Dmitry with Hara Canucks, and the OnePlus 5 is an attractive device. The price is less appealing versus the 3T, but it's still awesome to have such high capacity storage for a lot less than we're normally used to. Plus their approach to clean software is fantastic. It doesn't get better than this outside the Pixel lineup. The hardware is nothing to complain about, although the full utilization of that 8GB of RAM is questionable, but the phone feels incredibly fast. The new curved body is gorgeous, the 1080p AMOLED screen is the perfect compromise between pixel density and battery life, and the dual camera is of course the main highlight here. That is good, but there are a lot of asterisks that are sort of associated with all of these positive features. So is the OnePlus 5 for you? Let's break it down right after this. The Gram Spectrum keyboard by Tesoro comes with a new mechanical agile switch with low-profile keycaps with super fast response and shorter actuation distance, plus all the customization included with RGB lighting and macros for a premium user. Now, a few days ago, I ran a Twitter poll to see how you guys use your smartphones the most, and surprisingly, there were very few clicks in the camera department, so let's see how the OnePlus 5 handles all other aspects that people rely on. So let's begin the experience with the body that absolutely requires a skin or a case. I love the original sandstone texture that is grippy and that is needed not only for holding the OP5, but also picking it up, as the smooth curved edges have zero grip, which is why I prefer the body design of the OnePlus 3. But everything else is pretty much identical with clicky power and volume buttons, although they are now much thinner but still have very nice clickiness to them. The fingerprint scanner is incredibly fast with that minor vibration for feedback. The notification light is excellent on the top left corner with color customization available, and the Type-C port is at the bottom that is still a USB 2.0 interface. I wish more Android phones had the alert slider so you can quickly enable silent mode or do not disturb mode and customize them a little bit. So for example, when I'm taking a nap and I want to still receive phone calls from my favorites, FedEx and UPS, I can still hear that phone call come through and not miss a package. The headphone jack at the bottom surprisingly is powerful enough to drive my HD6XX, so I'm very happy with the amp output, and it absolutely kills the iPhone 7 in volume. The single speaker hover is way too easy to block. It is very loud, and at max volume it's too harsh, so find yourself a bowl and the OP5 turns into a good speaker. So now the screen, it's received good praise because of calibration tools. So I prefer the sRGB mode because it's just the most natural colors. But if you like a more saturated look, we have the color customization and also a temperature adjustment. The resolution at 1080p is fine. The brightness outdoors though is kind of weak. So, you know, I always have to keep it at 100% even indoors to get that nice vibrant and bright effect, which so I wish the screen was a bit brighter. However, the minimum brightness is very low, which is good, so you won't be blinding yourself or anyone around you if you check your phone during the night. But the blacks do tend towards the purples, so you know the color accuracy is not there anymore at this lowest setting. But really what got people riled up is the jelly effect on the screen when you swipe up. And this jelly effect is visible because the screen on the OnePlus 5 is mounted upside down, and we're told that is to make room for some other hardware components on the inside, most likely for that dual camera at the back. So the jelly effect is only visible when you scroll up, and I can recreate the same jelly effect by flipping my OnePlus 3, and you can see the jelly motion here as well. That top portion or the bottom portion of the screen has that little bit of stretch. Now I can recreate the same effect with my Galaxy S7 if I flip the screen around. I think that's the nature of the AMOLED screen and how the refresh cycle works, and you know, I can sort of live with the jelly effect on the OnePlus 5. What I cannot live though is the touch screen latency, which on the OnePlus 5 is just terrible. Now when I say terrible, I mean in relation to my experience with the iPhone 7 and the Galaxy S7 that have very little if any touch latency, so everything on the screen when you interact with it feels like it's one-to-one. On the OnePlus 5 on the other hand, that that's not the case. So it is very noticeable when I'm swiping and I tap the screen for it to stop. There's a delay between my tap and when the screen actually stops. At least it feels to me that way. Also, when I'm typing with both thumbs, it feels like the text is trying to catch up to me. So there's that visual delay, which is very annoying. Or when I'm holding long pressing the delete button, it always deletes more versus when I lift off the thumb off the delete button. It's just so annoying because it creates this weird contrast, as this phone being praised one of the fastest smartphones on the market right now, but it has that weird sluggish feeling on the touchscreen latency situation, so it's not ideal. And so that is my biggest complaint with the OnePlus 5. Alright, so now let's talk about the camera. The selfie mode is wider than my iPhone and it handles backlight better, but the S7, despite its softer look, is still my favorite. With direct light, the iPhone has the most detail, but I still prefer the Galaxy selfie. So the OnePlus 5 is in that middle with good field of view, exposure is fine, and white balance most of the time is okay. So now the dual lens situation at the front is well implemented, although it needs to be clarified that it's not an optical 2x zoom, it's actually 1.6x optical zoom, and the rest is handled digitally in the software. And so despite the high resolution, the fine detail is kind of missing and it looks too processed and really kind of falls apart in dark setting. As with any smartphone camera, you want to have the best lighting possible, but I think they hyped up the camera resolution and detail so much, like it's literally written on the side of the box, that I was kind of disappointed to not see the detail that I was expecting. The portrait mode is kind of cool and edge detection is passable. You can even do self-portraits, which are really cool with this nice background compression. It doesn't work all the time, and honestly, I would have taken a wider field of view for that second lens, like on the G6 versus the extra zoom. And that is because just like on the iPhone 7 Plus, the second lens is only engaged when there's enough light. So actually most of the time, even with like good lighting in my studio, I would cover up the zoom lens and take a shot or actually see what the camera is looking at, and it would still be using the main lens with a 2x magnification and not the zoom lens. So that's kind of unfortunate. I'd rather do that on a primary lens, but have like a really nice wide angle like on the G6 to capture a lot of the environment and stuff, and I think that would have been a much better direction for OnePlus to take. Some other important features to note include a reading mode, so it turns everything into grayscale with nice warm paper look. I read books on Kindle, so this is very relevant to me. You can also choose your vibration intensity and even pattern, though it is kind of weak. At least nothing beats the iPhone vibration. The lock screen has expanded a little bit to accommodate more room for notifications versus what we saw on the OnePlus 3, and dash charging remains the same. It's super fast, never have to worry about battery life. When plugging in it for like 20 minutes gets you good recharge. I also want to mention the flashlight on the OnePlus 5 is pretty weak when compared to the iPhone 7, something to keep in mind if you use the flashlight often. And as of July 20th, OnePlus has patched out the 911 rebooting bug when the phone would restart when you tried to call 911 or emergency services. So that wasn't pleasant, but they've patched out a software update, and they've released like 5 OTA updates so far. So that means they're kind of staying on top of things and listening to what the community's figuring out in terms of the bugs on the OnePlus 5. So overall, I'm pretty happy with the OnePlus 5, but we're in a difficult price territory where the device is kind of expensive to not have any rubber seals or adhesive for water resistance. 4K video is actually worse versus the OnePlus 3 because for some reason there is no image stabilization on the OnePlus 5 at 4K. And from a value perspective, the OnePlus 3T sounds like a better deal because even if you're after that 2x zoom, in most situations, like I mentioned earlier, you'll still be utilizing that main camera for that 2x magnification, unless you have the ideal ton of light in your scene for that second lens to engage. And so to the most part, the OnePlus 5 checks off many of those priority elements that people want to see, but I wish that the touch latency was reduced alongside have some water resistance rating so that its feature set could be closer to all those flagships that are a lot more expensive while still maintaining that price advantage and that price distance. And so that's all I have to say about the OnePlus 5. What do you guys think? Are you picking one up? Yes or no? Let me know in the comments below and why. Don't forget to subscribe for more similar content if you guys enjoyed this review, and we'll see you in the next video.